the last game we went to before the Thanksgiving holiday, so it was about a week and a half ago, was the last game with Albany versus Rhode Island. Just in general, shout out to every team in the CAA conference. Shout out to Albany. Shout out to Rhode Island. Shout out to all the teams. But that was the last game that me and you went through. Rhode Island pulled out the victory. But if you were there, the first quarter, what were you seeing as a fan of football?
I was seeing Albany do their thing. Like they came out and struck.
If you were there when Albany struck with that pass, when Pfefferberger hit Jackson, number 10, I forget his last name, Jackson Parker. I was like, oh, here we go. They going out swinging.
Yep.
Then I don't want to give excuses. Maybe it was the cold weather. Maybe it was the jitters. But a well-coached Rhode Island team turned it around very quickly and started answering every single drive that Albany put together defensively and offensively. Right. So what did you like about that game? I don't want to say dislike because it's not, you take lessons away from games like that. Yeah. So give me some of the takes that you got out of that game.
And salute to Albany because they had nothing to really play for. They could have just said, let's go out here, let's just play and just get this game over with. They basically played like it was their Super Bowl, like they were coming with their A game, and that's exactly what they did. But let me also say this, and it's not a shot at Albany, but Rhode Island, they were one of my picks. Is like one of my picks to make it.
Yeah, they were. The first podcast.
Yeah.
Before we started back in June.
Yeah.
You listed 4 teams, if I remember correctly. I want to say New Hampshire was one of them. Rhode Island. I think you probably said Villanova and somebody else.
Yeah. But
Rhode Island was in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they kind of showed in the first quarter that Albany was fighting them. But it seemed, I think, what game did we go? We went to, there was another game that Rhode Island played. I want to say it was Maine. It looked like Maine was holding them in the first quarter. And then for whatever reason, it's like Rhode Island takes your best shot and then they just start doing what they know how to do best. And they put up points. And you can't stop them. Like there's nothing you can do. It looks like it's a slow start and then all of a sudden they take off.
Well-coached teams do that. And then they had 18 seniors. Shout out to all the seniors on senior day.
Right. So Kasim Hill, Ed Lee,
Marquise DeShields, who's declaring for the NFL draft. So I want, real quick, not to cut you off, shout out to that running back. He's a very dynamic running back in the CAA. Salute to that young brother, and good luck on his future endeavors. I know he's going to eat in the NFL.
Facts. And it's a lot of things, too, about them. They also did what they know how to do best. They put up 21 points in the second quarter, and it seemed like I don't think Albany could ever really recover from that. And that's just Rhode Island being Rhode Island. Because after that, it was 14-14 in the next half, the second half of the game, but it was too late. And Rhode Island's defense, credit to Rhode Island's defense, because I know that they had some down times this season, but they were good enough to get stops and stop teams when they needed to be stops.
How many block punts? Was it 3 block punts? And one of them went back the other way?
Yeah. That the kid ran it back for a touchdown.
I want to say number 9.
Yeah. So it just goes to show, man, like they were right there. I think Rhode Island went into that game. I don't think we understood it at first, but I think Rhode Island went to that game thinking, if we want to make the playoffs, we're going to have to make a statement. That game, they made a statement. And I think that when they walked off that field, they thought they was going to be playing the following Saturday.
Everybody did. If you're a fan of Rhode Island, after seeing that performance, you said, yo, we're going to get a bid into the playoffs. And unfortunately, me and you spoke about this. We think they got robbed. Because who got in? Delaware got in?
Yeah, Delaware got in. Delaware. The reason why I think Rhode Island didn't get in, and I don't agree with it, but I see their point. They're looking at 3 losses that Rhode Island had. It was a Delaware game early in the season, which was 42-21. So it wasn't like they had like a tough, like it was a tight game. Then they lost to William and Mary at the last few seconds in the end zone. William and Mary got stops. Then there was the New Hampshire game, and even though they shouldn't have lost that game because that was a bad call. That receiver didn't catch that ball. So, I mean, I personally think just based off of that, you kind of wanted to give them the bone and like, yo, because we dropped the ball on this, maybe we need to get you and let you in and compete for a playoff because they're in. Yeah. If they get that game, them and New Hampshire was going to be in anyway because New Hampshire had the conference. They kind of had made a statement. But Delaware probably wouldn't have got in, and people still felt like, from the outside looking in, from outsiders I talked to, they still felt like they should have got in because Delaware lost that game, the last game of the season. They didn't take care of business. Rhode Island did. So I don't understand how it is, but, I mean, shouts out to Delaware. They went into the playoffs. They done won their first game in the playoff championship bracket. So, salute to them. They did what they said they were going to do. I mean, it don't look bad either way for the conference, but
we big Rhode Island. Well, at least I am big Rhode Island fans, man. Yeah. I was rooting for them kids.
Yeah, so I think they kind of got gypped about that. Let me say this too, man. Do you want to say something?
Oh no, I just want to say, did you want to talk about the flip side of Albany, what's to come next season, or do you want to go somewhere else?
I just want to stay Rhode Island real quick. I think who doesn't get credit when you see an offense like Rhode Island that can strike and do what they want at any time. You got guys like DeShields, who's a 1,000-yard rusher. The receiving core is always crazy.
Ed Lee,
Kasim Hill, very prolific quarterback, tough guy too. Nobody sees.
Took a lot of hits.
Yeah, and especially in that Albany game. But the offensive line.
Offensive line is monstrous.
When your offense is creating numbers like that, your offensive line is automatic. So when you got guys, and I'm going to name them, that probably don't get enough shine or credibility like they should.
The O-line and D-line never gets credit, but go ahead.
Guys like Lorenzo Thompson, Adam McKenna, Sebastian, I hope I'm not butchering his name. DeSantes, yes. Okay. Yeah. Lorenzo, Sebastian Della Sodes, Nick Correa. I can't say it right, but AJ Cornelius. Those guys are
shout out to Johnny Cornelius.
Yeah, AJ Cornelius. Yeah, yeah. So, I say okay. I was just gonna say AJ, but those guys definitely were definitely the wall. And you see, if you go look at Rhode Island's offensive stats, you can see why. It's hard to beat them. Those guys are, when their offense is putting up points like it's putting up, I mean, they kind of do what they know how to do best. And I don't think they get any type of credibility or shine. Just like how the defense, even though they don't have a shutdown defense, they have a defense that gets stops, and it is better from when we first saw Rhode Island. When we first started covering CAA, I remember Rhode Island used to score like 31 points, and they would lose 32-31. Like, they couldn't get stops. So with the defense they have now, they get stops. So, I mean, the 35-21, 35-14 games I've seen. And the thing about it is they beat teams that they're supposed to beat. That's the difference between this year, last season, and as opposed to the other seasons when we first started covering CAA. They're beating teams they're supposed to beat, and even the teams that they're competing with to see if they got over the hump, they're winning those games too, with the exception of the Delaware game. But, William Mary it took them to the last minute for William Mary to beat them, and then they got gypped in New Hampshire. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it is what it is, man. So, like I said, they're on another level. We'll see how they be back next year. They got a lot of people leaving.
Seniors and transfer students.
Yeah, so we'll see how Fleming rebounds too. I'm pretty sure he'll figure it out. So that's just what I wanted to say. And real quick, the kid AJ Cornelius, he's I think when I look at the film, he kind of stands out. Like even with the clips you see that we put on social media,
is a monster on the whole line.
Yeah. You see people flying. He makes them fly like Superman, or you just see them. You see defensive players come off their feet.
Yeah, shout out to the whole O-line, man.
Yeah.
I definitely don't get enough credit for all teams.
Yeah.
Real quick before we touch on Albany. So we talked about the playoffs, how Delaware got in, and they won their first. So the next round of the playoffs, New Hampshire versus Holy Cross. Gardner-Webb versus William and Mary, Delaware versus South Dakota State, and Richmond versus Sacramento. Out of the teams that I named, who do you expect to advance to the final, the next round?
No disrespect, but I really feel like New Hampshire will. They showed me a lot with Fordham, because even though
Fordham is a high-power offense,
they remind me of they're like Rhode Island, the prequel. Like they can put up like 40 points and they still lose 52-49. That's Fordham's problem. They can't stop nobody. They just might get a stop at the end to different the score. But the thing about New Hampshire is, what it showed me to them is that how they stood up and they stood on the ground and did, they ran the ball. They played them tough and physical. But,
real quick, when we talk about running, that running back for New Hampshire, off my head, Dylan, I can't pronounce your last name, but number 20. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, my God.
That, I don't know if he's a junior. I don't know if he's a senior.
He's a junior.
Okay.
A sophomore, junior, one of them two.
Your coach is going to kill me for saying this, but if you are eligible for the NFL draft, you need to sign up. That is a monster running back.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look like it until he gets downhill. His speed and strength, I saw firsthand when he came to UAlbany, but the two running backs that I like out the CAA conference is Marquise DeShields. I'll say 3 because we're from UAlbany. Todd Sibley from UAlbany. But number 20 from New Hampshire, Dylan. That kid is a monster, man.
Super monster.
So I'm with you on that, and I expect that his running game is going to help them advance. But go ahead.
Yeah, facts. Him, and then there's also William and Mary. I think they're going.
So you going with New Hampshire
and William and Mary?
We gonna put some cases of dew on it, man.
Yeah, man.
I
got you. Yeah. I think those two, William and Mary. Yeah, Mike London, the head coach from William and Mary, I think he beat a Division I team this year, not mid-major, like major Division I team. He William and Mary came out. They have changed that culture. Even when he first got there, they were playing like in the middle of the pack. Usually when coaches first get there, they're trying to learn. They're going through a rough season. They're trying to rebuild or whatever. Not with William and Mary. William and Mary was in the middle of the pack when he got there and put to implement that program. They got into the middle of the pack. Then they started being looked at. They were putting up points, but they weren't getting stops. And they were another team. They're starting to figure out how to end games. You know how like you talk about UAlbany, like UAlbany has to learn. They were learning how to close out games.
Okay.
You saw it against Rhode Island. You saw it against in other teams, and they were beating teams they were supposed to and winning games that you didn't think they could win. They had a tough schedule this year, and they came out and I think they're 9-1 or 10-1. But they doing this. It's not a doubt. There's not a doubt. There was no doubt that they should be in the playoffs.
So salute to all the teams that are advancing in the CAA playoffs. Salute to all the student athletes, man. It's going to be interesting coming down.
Yeah.
So the last part of this that we got to talk about is the team that we cover in our backyard, UAlbany.
Yeah.
They finished 8-3. And let me say this. First of all, salute to all the student athletes and salute to the seniors that are seniors and grad students that are finishing their degree and going on to the next phase. Their record to me, and I know people say this all the time, is not indicative to who they are because there was a couple of games where one call, I believe, could turn the tide and they could easily, I'll be fair and say 5 or 6 win season. So I know they're 3-8, but in reality,
that's what I predicted.
I'm gonna mention these 2 games. Obviously, the Hampton game was a meltdown.
Yeah.
You should have won the Hampton game at home. The Monmouth game. And I know how the game started, but there was a specific play that I caught in 4K where they caught the safety. I believe number 41 or 42 had a safety, and they just like, oh, no safety. And then the very next play, the kid runs 96 yards. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Those are just 2 games in particular. I can mention 3 other games, but I'm just going to be fair. They should have easily been 5 or 6 win season, and that puts them in the middle of the pack of the CAA, especially with those 2 games that I mentioned in our conference games. Where do you think UAlbany goes from here?
I think they got to fix that defense.
Okay.
Offensive wise, they'll be okay because the receivers will. Is it Wilkes? The one that called the one in Monmouth when he got the concussion.
No.
That's what's his
so
name?
There's two receivers. There's more than two receivers. Please forgive me, but the two receivers that stand out, well, three. Number 13, pardon me, I'm just going to say number 13. Julian Hicks is the one that got hit.
Yeah,
he's number one.
Hicks.
And then Roy Alexander, who's number 2.
Those two.
They have a monster receiving core.
They got the two receivers. The running back that's going to be coming behind him, I forgot his name.
Who's the running back that's going to be taking over for Todd Sibley?
It's number
25?
I think so, 32. It's one of them. I'm not sure.
He played in a couple games.
Yeah, they'll be all right with the running game. They're going to miss Greeny, though.
Greeny's a senior. He's graduating.
I think Greeny, if Greeny's out and this is his last year, they're going to miss Greeny.
Okay.
Greeny, that's a big loss because Greeny, even when you slow him down, he still gets yards.
The next game.
Right.
You remember that podcast that we did where they shut him? I forgot what game he was completely shut down. Was it Monmouth?
Yeah, Monmouth was the one that was giving him fits, yeah.
And then the very next game, even though they lost, he had like 3 touchdowns and went berserk. So
Greeny,
that's going to be a huge loss for you, Albany.
Yeah, Greeny's the go-to. He's like they Travis Kelce. Like you can just throw to that guy anytime.
But I will say this. Number 13.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10, Jackson Parker. Roy Alexander, number 2. And number 1, Julian Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to say the other tight end. I forget his name, but he's number 87.
Mm-hmm.
They have a great receiving core and a good tight end. So I'm with you on that. But go ahead and speak to the defense.
They gotta do something with that defense. So I don't know. I saw with the all honors and all that stuff. But, I mean, it don't matter, man. That defense is bad. They can't cover. They get lit up in the backfield. It just is inevitable. It's like teams do what they want. They run it. They get physical with them. We saw with New Hampshire, Maine got physical with them. Hampton wasn't scared. They went deep on them. There's something that.
You think there's something that's missing? Is it on the line or is it in the backfield?
I want to say more. I want to say on the line. The line. They got to fix the line. Fix the line first, and you can make the backfield work. Because even if you make the backfield work, if people know they can run on you, it's just going to be a long day no matter who you're playing. They need to fix the line. So Gattuso, he needs to figure out what he's going to do. Like, as far as defense-wise, he needs to figure that out. Offensive-wise, they're in sync. They're putting up 30 points a game.
Shout out to Reese Poffenberger, man.
That kid's a beast, man.
Well, how do you say it has no memory?
Mm-hmm.
So he'll have a play where you're scratching your head like, how did he throw that interception?
Mm-hmm.
And then the very next drive, when he gets the ball, he's lighting it up down the field to a Greeny or Julian Hicks or Roy Alexander. I think what I saw from him is him gain his confidence as the season went on, no matter whether Albany was up or down. So looking at the way his confidence built, if he's any bit of the competitor that I think he is, because I see he got some dog in him.
Mm-hmm.
If he's any bit of the competitor, he left that season set. Yo, we 3-8. I'm about to go hit the weight room.
Mm.
Nah, this ain't it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to hit the weight room. I'm gonna be counting down the days to spring camp. I'm gonna be counting down the days to summer camp. And as soon as the season start, I'm about to light. How you know how many rookie of the weeks that kid won? Like 7.
Yeah.
7? No, it was either 5 or 6. I'm exaggerating, but
no, I get it.
They practically was about to name the award after the kid. So watching him play, knowing that he's going to be back for you, Albany, whatever he does, if he stays healthy and just goes into the weight room like, yo, with this chip on his shoulder, watch out. I'm guaranteeing next year that kid averages 270 to 300 yards a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds crazy, but you have to watch this kid all season.
Mm-hmm.
With that receiving core around him and with his confidence and him coming into next year being mad, because you should be mad, 270 to 300 yards.
Mm.
Good luck if you're on the defensive end of that next year.
Yeah.
Shout out to all them kids, but go ahead.
No, I like I said, Sibley too. They're gonna miss him. Like I said, UAlbany just has to improve on building some type of defense and then closing out games. They'll be right up there competing for a playoff spot if they do that. If they don't, it's gonna be another long season.
I'm with you there.
So
if they can address the defensive pieces, then this could be a different conversation next year. And I know that sounds good, but they're one team that I saw. Usually when a team is like 2-9, 3-8, you're saying, damn, it needs a major overhaul. I don't feel that way with them. I'm on there with you.
Yeah.
They patch those gaps. I could see them winning 6 or 7 games next season.
Yeah. So, okay, so yeah, and that's just what it is. Like I said, man, salute to Rhode Island football team. Salute to UAlbany football team. It was good watching them, seeing what they did this year. Like I said, they definitely did what they needed to do. Next year is a new year, and for UAlbany, it's back to the drawing board for Rhode Island and Coach Fleming. It's how can we keep this train running, with what we just built,